Hello everyone and welcome to the first video of this course where we're going to talk about securing GraphQL APIs from attacks. So in this course, we are going to cover a range of different topics about GraphQL security. First thing first, I will explain what is GraphQL, how it differs from the conventional APIs that we know as REST API. So as you know, with the REST API, you would send a request to a particular endpoint, and each endpoint is pre-configured to return some specific responses. And that creates a problem that we know as overfetching, underfetching, right? So your endpoint is, as I said, is configured to return what it returns. What it returns might be more than what you require. That is overfetching, meaning that you might need a single item, but the endpoint is configured to return 20 items back to you. And then what normally has been doing is that the UI will filter these things out. And then underfetching is that you need to ping multiple endpoints to get what you need. That's the conventional REST API feature. But the way that GraphQL works is that you as the client are empowered to create a particular query that you want the server to respond, as long as your query is within the agreement that you have with the server and the server can understand what you're requiring, and then you're good to go. So it defines various parameters, various types, and everything is typed, right? Any value should have a type, like as an integer, string, or whatever. And then you have these predefined, right? You have these predefined, and you can request whatever you want, like the volume of information that you want to request, and so on and so forth. So meaning that instead of sending a single request per endpoint for requesting particular resources, you now can define and tell the server what exactly you want and send it in a one packet and to one endpoint, and then the server will analyze your packet and analyze your request, see what you want, and they'll prepare a packet for you, a response for you that will have what you've requested for. So this GraphQL in nature aims to reduce the overhead and complexity in managing APIs, because APIs that are normally delivering data, and GraphQL can allow the client and empower the client to sort of tell the server what exactly they need, right? If you need more information, if you need a lot of information, then you can request them in a single request. It's been introduced by Facebook. So as you can see, the reasoning behind it in social media. So basically you want to know, for instance, the images, videos, posts about a user. So you don't need to have a single endpoint for each of them. So you just have a single endpoint, and then in that endpoint, you would say what you want about a particular user or about how many other users, right? So you can define what exactly you want. So that's a very overall view of GraphQL. So throughout this course, in the first section, we'll give you an introduction to GraphQL. So that will cover what is GraphQL without a specific focus on security. We'll see what is GraphQL, what are the terminologies that are using GraphQL, what are the core concepts, and how it differs from conventional REST APIs and the API models. So we just covered a bit of that, but you'll learn more about the GraphQL and how it differs from the conventional APIs. Then we'll jump into GraphQL vulnerabilities. We'll talk about what are the vulnerabilities that exist in APIs, and then we'll talk about what are the OWASP top 10 and what are the vulnerabilities that you would see in GraphQL. So of course, there are some vulnerabilities which are common across APIs, and they would exist in any API, but we have specific vulnerabilities that are pointed for GraphQL, right? So they are because of the vulnerabilities or because some of the key features, right? For instance, as we mentioned, the key feature of GraphQL is that it allows you to query whatever you want, right? And the first thing first is that comes to mind is that it will create an access control authorization issue, right? So these are specific requirements with GraphQL, specific vulnerabilities for GraphQL that, due to its nature, GraphQL may make a situation worse or introduce new vulnerabilities or even increase the attack surface for sort of conducting and performing a particular attack against the application. We will also do a bit of a labs. We will cover a few labs where we will put our learning into practice. I will be using Portstrigger's Web Security Academy as the platform, and then we will walk through some of their labs. We will be essentially try to see how we can put in practice what we've learned throughout the course, and then how GraphQL will work in action, right? How the vulnerabilities will appear, how you can sort of treat them. There are specific features, specific tabs in, for instance, Burp Suite that will allow you to play with GraphQL in a specific manner. So we'll see those, and we'll see how you can benefit from them while testing GraphQL. So that will give you and basically prepare you for the hands-on activities if you're going to run a pen test on GraphQL, or if you're a bug bounty hunter, so you'll just understand what are the features that are available. Of course, we're not gonna dive too deep into this area, but we're gonna give you an understanding and how it works. In the section 4, we'll cover prevention and best practices. So the roadmap is like, we explain to you what the attack is, we'll explain how it differs from the conventional APIs, and then we'll go to prevention and best practices. As, for instance, consider it as a pen test report. Eventually, you need to come up with a report and with recommendations around how you can prevent this issue from happening and how you can secure your APIs, right? So that's what the goal of this section would be. We're gonna teach you how you can prevent and what are the best practices that needs to be followed by application developers and designers to ensure the security against GraphQL. It is also worth noting that the communication of the GraphQL API vulnerabilities is very important, because as you would see, some vulnerabilities exist in different APIs, and people who are not familiar with GraphQL might say that we have controls in place, so you don't need to be worried about that. But some of the conventional controls which apply for REST API, they do not apply necessarily for GraphQL. So that's where you need to understand the differences between GraphQL and REST API. You need to have a deep understanding of GraphQL and how it works, and you need to have an understanding of the vulnerabilities and best practices to be able to convey the message and explain why it is important and different in GraphQL. And finally, in section 5, we'll discuss the key takeaways and wrap up the section. Okay, so before jumping into the course, a little bit about myself. As you know, I'm Ali Dori, so I'm an application security engineer. I also have a background as a security researcher, researching in both academia and industry in terms of securing applications, securing various domains. I've worked in the security of IoT systems, smart grids, smart cities, and various industries as well. So I'm also a penetration tester, certified OSCP and CISSP. So my background is mainly around red teaming activities, testing, penetration testing activities. And I also was engaged a lot in terms of the security researching, uplifting, understanding, designing systems which would be secure, and identifying the risk potential for those systems. Okay, that's me. And now that you're a bit familiar with the course and what is coming, let's jump into it.